What's up guys, Thomas McIntosh with McIntosh Trading here, and today I'm bringing you guys another video. Today we're going to be talking about shorting and kind of what I look for and what to avoid shorting, what to short and where to fill, how to fill. There's just going to be a ton of information, so hopefully you guys do enjoy. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so first off we're just going to start with ENSC. I have 6 examples today and they are all from shorts that we did take today. So let's just hop right in here to the chart. As you can see, ENSC started out the morning. It had a little bit of volume. And I told the Discord, I was like, someone's loading this. This has like low volume. It's just slowly chugging along. There was no specific news, however, on this one. And if we go back to the daily, I guess I got to refresh here because it ran so much. On the daily, you can see it's just been dipping ever since. I believe this was like an uplist from OTC, and it just was non-stop dipping, dip, 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 dip. And this pop right here actually was Ultra online, Ultra Trading or Ultra whatever, I don't know. His name is the Stock Sniper online, not really sure why. But this pop right here, this gap up was from him, and then it was just non-stop dipping, and it actually started to curl a little bit, and I did notice that someone was loading here, and then it just had another big volume pump today. Anyways, so if we go back and we look at the 5-minute chart here, this was just a perfect opportunity to short, and I'll tell you why. As soon as the price is like slowly moving, there's not much volume, which we will show another example of how a stock is like moving, but it has large volume and it like can barely move. That's GOVX earlier today. We'll hop onto that a little later. But as you can see, if a stock is moving with slow volume and moving up, I just don't short it. I wait. But obviously this was up with no news, so I told the Discord, I was like, okay, reserve this one. It's likely going to pop bigger once the volume comes in, so just be ready to short it. And it actually halted up right here, and then it opened right up here. And I believe a couple people in our Discord filled above 5, and then it got a little heavier up here, and then once this volume right here, as you can see, these 3 candlesticks just had massive volume, but it could not move. That is the perfect setup to short right there. If you're up here and the stock is barely moving higher, like it's just having a tough time, like it rejected 5.15 and then it rejected 5.10 and then it shot up a little bit, but it still just kind of rejected it, and then this mega dump candle right here, it just super rejected that and then dumped all the way down. And these things, you do have to be quick with your entries, but this 15-minute span here was just the perfect opportunity for you guys to short. And so I'm lucky that some of the people in the Discord got a fill on that, and then the rest of the day it was just non-stop dump. And this was just an easy setup to short with no news. It had low volume, and then it had higher volume pop, and then once it was up here, it was up like 80. No, it jumped. Yeah, it was almost up 100% on the day. So that's just an easy one to short. You can make a ton of money off that one, and it just continued to dump the rest of the day and closed pretty low. Next up, we have NVIV. This one is just a classic example of something randomly moving throughout the day. This one we had to be a little careful with because we did see like ESGC, and we did see SONN, which just pumped on no news up here. So obviously we wanted to be careful in case that one did pop. But on this pop here, it had, let's see, it had a pretty heavy volume pop. It had 1.5 million, which isn't that much for a penny, but it had a pretty big spike. And once this low volume had started out, low volume, once that big volume spike comes in, that's probably the last of the spike. So this is where shorts are going to pile in, and then that's just going to drop the stock price. So right up here, once you see this big giant green candle, if there's no news, nothing supporting it, this is just an easy one to hop right into. 75 to 80 cents, and then you can just write it down here. 65 cents, that's a nice 10 to 15% short for not a lot of work. Next we have ESGC. Now today, this one is a little different. It did pop yesterday to $1, and I believe that this had something to do with Atlas saying their target was 1, because all this was just super low volume. Like even these candles were relatively small. It did have some Amazon news, but that news was nothing special, nothing to warrant a move to like 1. I actually did tell the Discord not to short this one until it went to higher, because I kind of figured that it might get a pump just because Amazon is in the press release. So that's kind of stuff that I would avoid, is just like big names, Amazon, Google, stuff like that. I kind of make sure it runs a decent bit if I'm going to short it. Like, it will dump, but you just have to kind of be careful with that. So, and this pop right here is the one that we did short, actually. So basically right here is at 62 cents on the low, and then this green candle was actually just the same news from the day before being like publicly released by the company. So once it moved up here, we shorted it and then just got a nice dump here to 66. And never get greedy with your shorts. Once you're in the green, once you're making money, just make sure that you exit them, because you never know if the price is going to come back. Even if this was a recycled PR, you just never know if it's going to keep coming back up, because you never know if someone's going to pump it or whatever. So take your profits and reserve for the next run in case it runs. GOVX today, there's one piece of news that is just always a short, and that's going to be patent news. If you see something with patent application, or they get a patent from someone, just instantly be ready to short that. And I actually did short a little early. I alerted it around, let's see, I alerted it around 4.5, 4.6, but I actually filled a few shares at 4.3, unfortunately. But after that, I did get more fills up here, and I got more fills at 5 as well. And then something was clearly, some chat room or something was clearly pumping this. As you can see, it was just heavy volume, but it could not move. And then this right here, it had 1.4 million. It spiked to the new high of day and then just instantly dumped from there. So someone was clearly pumping this, and then once it reached their target, they sold, they were out, and then just the rest of the people got dumped on, and it ended up dumping to 394. So if you had just, even if you did fill 4.3, just make sure you have reserves up here to fill, and then boom. And another thing I want to talk about, I know I keep saying reserving shares, so that's basically, so right now this is at $7.02 in after hours. It actually had more news, and I'm not shorting it yet. I will be watching it for a short tomorrow. I think it's ran way too much for that news, and usually when these things pump into close, usually this is just a dump waiting to happen, in my opinion. So if, for example, if I'm saying to reserve shares at $8, I would just put in an order at 8. I'll see if it even lets me. I just put it in order at 8, and if there are shares available, it will let you put in order to short these shares at 8. I know it works on Webull. I'm not sure how many other platforms you can exactly reserve shares on, but that would let you keep shares and make sure that you're holding short shares, because there are a limited supply. So in case this stock does run to 8, you would be first in line for shares. And here's a reason why this is so important, because say we go to VRPX here. Say I begin shorting this one at $10. Obviously, I'd want to reserve shares for higher, because in case it runs, which it did end up running to 39, I believe, or maybe even higher. Yeah, 39 in pre-market. So if I reserve shares up here while it's down here, there's obviously going to be shares available down here, but once the price gets up here, tons of shorts are going to pile in. So the likelihood of you being able to catch shares up here after it's already ran is next to impossible. So if you reserve those shares, you're already in line. So once the stock comes up here, you can get those shares and then be ready for the dump right after that. Moving on, we have MRI in today. And this one is tricky because the news was pretty lame, but as you can see here, this also had pretty lame news here. So I would be careful shorting it. I would just wait until it, wait until tomorrow. It had news in after hours, and something that I tend to avoid shorting is when, if I short, say I short right here at 6, if this is holding its gains all through after hours, this is not something that I would want to hold into the next day, just because you never know what's going to happen, and it did close over the VWAP. I think this probably has a pretty good chance of running at least to 7 or 8 tomorrow, just based on this close. It just didn't want to dip under 6. Every dip got eaten up, and we've seen how far this has ran in the past, that it's just kind of scary. So like, knowing this chart, I would just not short this one yet. I would make sure to reserve some and wait for tomorrow. Lastly, we just have EJH here, and like I said earlier, these are all examples of stuff that you could have shorted today, or like basically just stuff that moved today. There's tons of shorts every day that you can make money on, And if you know how to identify them and how to fill them and how to play them, you can make a ton of money. And it's honestly not even that hard. It's stress-free most of the time, because in the small cap market, stuff will pump and pump and pump, but that stuff's always going to dump. So here we have EJH. These China names have been popping randomly, and there's nothing to warrant a pop. Like, there's no news out of China, nothing special, but they will just pop on volume. And EJH, it ran from 350 to 412, and I did tell the Discord to reserve some. We never filled any, I don't think. Let's see, we did fill. It pumped another day to 460 actually. I'm trying to remember. It must have been last week where it pumped. Anyways, this has just always been a short lately. All these China plays, China's just been cracking down on those companies, and they want. A lot of them are just terrible charts. Like, you go look at BABA. This is a large cap out of China, and they've just been a nonstop dumpster. So even the strong companies in China are just absolute dumpsters. So obviously a trash small cap stock in the China market is just going to be an absolute dumpster as well. The IPO was at like 16. It shot up to 80, which was just complete manipulation, and now it's just down here in the threes. So this one, anytime it pops like 20-30%, I would just be ready to short it, and obviously ready to have those reserves just in case it does run more. But usually you're safe shorting this one at 4, and then you just get an easy ride down to 330 once it finally dumps. So this one wasn't too hard, just a quick example of something easy to short. And yeah, so if you guys do have more questions on shorting, I know I just kind of went over examples quickly, and I might have talked a little quickly, but the important rules to know are just to reserve to the moon, because you never know how much these small caps will pump. Just to go back to VRPX, this one I actually played long because of just the crazy amounts of volume coming in. So I did play it long through this pump. I never tried to short it just because this one, it didn't actually have a short button when I tried to short it, or when I tried to like look it to see if you could short it. But this one just had crazy volume, so I knew to avoid it and knew to try to play it long, and it kind of worked out. And then yeah, just make sure you reserve, because you never know how these small caps are going to pump. They could pump like MRIN from a couple months back when it just pumped to the moon for no specific reason. The news wasn't even that great. It pumped to 27. So if you started shorting way out here, like, you could have been screwed for weeks. But obviously, as you can see, if you had reserved higher just to make sure that you're okay, this stuff does dump eventually. Now, there's a couple things that I do not short, and that is just data releases, because realistically, the people who are slapping that don't actually know if the data is good or bad. They just slap it right away. So I just kind of wait and see how those look, but generally I don't short those. I just have a few like different rules for shorting, and I will make probably a separate video on my specific rules. But I just wanted to get a quick video, which I guess is kind of turning into a long video, but just kind of examples from today, because there's tons of examples every day on stuff that you can short and stuff that you can learn to short. And just make sure you follow a specific set of rules and don't deviate, because don't get greedy, don't deviate, because if you miss a short, oh well, there's going to be another one coming up, because stuff is constantly getting pumped. Atlas, Ultra, there's tons of people online that are constantly pumping these small cap stocks. So if you notice just pops with no news, it's almost an easy short all the time. Obviously, PMCB, it didn't exactly have news, but it had that analyst saying whatever. And the reason I knew to avoid this one, just go look at the daily. It's just been a dump. And then the float over here, 1.5 million. So I just knew that this one wasn't one to short. It ended up going almost to 10, or I think it did break 10. Now, obviously, this short would have paid because they had an offering, but never go into a short like expecting an offering. Just make sure that you're smart, have your rules, and you can bank on shorting. It's not, I honestly don't think, I think shorting can be a lot easier than going long, just in the small cap market. Sometimes, especially in August, I've just been banking on shorts, and they've been my main money makers. So I hope this video does help you guys. And like I said, I will be making another one soon. And I do have a previous one as well. I can put that link in the description. I think it just goes over like 3 other examples. But my trading, my shorting, trading, all that has evolved since that video. So I'll be bringing a new video with my other tips and my other rules, so be on the lookout for that. But if you guys did enjoy this video, just make sure to like, subscribe, and retweet it on Twitter for me if you could. And yeah, peace out.